We've seen a lot of videos on YouTube talking about new music sucking. I, for one, am not that type of guy. I'm discovering new music all the time. I'm still excited about new music. As excited walking into a record store as I was in the 70s? Of course not. Don't be crazy. But there's still a lot of great new music out there. We talked to Stuart Epps, engineer-producer, who worked with Elton John, The Firm, Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page, Paul Rogers, Robbie Williams, and a lot more. Remember, if you want to get produced by Stuart Epps, who's worked with all these people, go to stuartepps.co.uk.
There's some YouTubers who are going on and they have the titles of their videos, and I know you'll appreciate this, are new music sucks. And I understand why they say it. I don't get excited like I did because there's still record stores here in Canada. I don't get excited like I used to walking into a record store. I've listened, I've been reading your website and, the Sgt. Pepper's, the White Album. I mean, all that excitement, that fervor that would happen. But you're working with new artists. I know this is a long question. You're working with new artists. It's not the same, but what's your reaction when people say new music sucks?
Well, I just think I don't know what they're listening to. I don't know what they're listening to, but I mean, it's nice to be chatting to you from Cookham in Berkshire all that way to Canada. New music sucks. Well, sucks isn't a word we use over here anyway. It has a completely different connotation. And what is new music? That's the thing. I think that's what the question is. So my answer to that is because of my long history in the music business, I'm amazed at how little music has really changed. And I often say this, I say on the one hand, I'm very grateful for it because young bands, if you ask them what's their favorite band, are likely to say Led Zeppelin or Bad Company or another band that I've worked with. On the other hand, I find it sad that there hasn't been some sort of amazing, music that's completely taken over, but then I'd be out of a job. So obviously I am pleased, but I would say music has changed very little, really. So what is new music? That's the thing. I guess you'd have to say some of the genres that, to be honest, I don't like very much, which would be heavy metal, which would be people screaming down microphones, which would be some of the rap that's full of swear words and not much musical content at all. It's not really even music. So over here, we've got an artist called Ed Sheeran, and we've, you've got to say he's new music. But the fact is, if you study what he's written and what he records, it's rejigged Beatles. That's what it is. So the music now that's being made, which is still going down extremely well, and also with kids, is a bit like it's old music presented. That's what it is. So I guess for kids, obviously, it's new to them. But for us old timers, we've heard it all before. This is just a different way of presenting it. So it's not really new music. And, what's incredible, actually, is that I get demos from new bands or from new artists. And somehow, after all these years, people can still come up with a different chord progression and a different voice sound and a different sound that just gets you going again. And you go, wow, I love that to bits. It's not like I've never heard it before. And of course, it's not quite like listening to the Beatles' White Album or Sgt. Pepper or even some of Elton's stuff, where I think we were actually making music that was completely new, and new productions, new sound. But, that new music sucks. No, I'm not into that. Well, I've got a sort of a radio show that I do every Friday morning, and people send in all sorts of new recordings and all sorts of things. And, we'll play something and I'll go, wow, that's a really good band. What's their name again? And they'll say, no, I should say it's one person. So we can't go and see them then. No, it's not a band. And I'm doing that myself anyway. What am I talking about? If you go onto my website, on the front page, it's 2-3 tracks. It's mainly all me. So we're all sort of guilty of it, I suppose.
I've been in radio 40 years now, and then I'll do an interview and I'll forget to press that little red button. That little red button.
I did an interview with someone for 2 hours and I said, "You did get that, did you?" And he went, "Oh, shit, hang on a minute. No, I didn't."
A few artists have let me do it again. Is there a difference now as opposed, I mean, when you were a teenager working for I mean, you were a young kid. Your parents let you out of school to do this. But we'll still get people coming up to us and say, "What do you think of this?" Of course, it happens all the time. And I'm from the school as, well, you ask me and I'm going to tell you what I think of this. Has it changed for you? Because back then you were asked for advice from young musicians probably all the time, and now you're doing it still. Has the temperament? Can they take criticism now? Is it changed from back then?
No one can take criticism, really. I mean, the music business is maybe worse. I don't know. Everyone says, "Go on, tell me what you really think. Tell me what I want you to be honest with me." They don't. No. We don't. We only want you to be honest if it's good news. We don't want to know that it's shit, it's crap, it sounds awful. Okay, really. But, we say that. We say, "Go on, I can take it. Tell me what you think." But the thing is that when I was you mentioned Dick James, where I started work when I was 15. And that was the biggest eye-opener, was going from school to now working in this amazing music publishers and meeting all these musicians, and one of them being Reg Dwight, as you know, became Elton John. And, I was a musician and singer, and that's all I cared about anyway. So now seeing it taking place, Beatles sheet music being made, all my heroes, So I've been very, very lucky and blessed, really, to have had this path almost laid out for me, especially in the early years. I was just very lucky. I just fell into that, worked with all these amazing people. I mean, and you realize just quite how amazing they were and are years later when they're still selling billions of records, Then we formed Rocket Records, which was our own record company. We were offered a band called Queen. We turned them down compared to some of the bands that were around in 1972. Queen were just like, there's some nice guitar harmonies going on there, but they wanted $200,000 or something, which was, you got to be kidding. We might pay that for the Rolling Stones, but we're not paying it for this band. But so I've been very spoiled, really. But you did ask me about, I used to be an A&R as well at Dick James. So people would come in off the street, they'd sit down, play guitar in front of me. That's not possible to people now. I think that's probably, obviously thinking about it, that's why people are furiously recording on their phones, which drives me absolutely mad. Someone sent me a demo yesterday and I said, "You know what? A phone isn't a recording instrument. It's for making telephone calls and speaking to people. If you're serious about your music, get a tape recorder." Like we had, I was making demos on a tape recorder, Revox tape recorder, when I was 9 years old, and we were getting into it, with the recording, and they weren't bad recordings. And it's like the sound has sort of regressed. You get an idea of what's going on by recording someone on a phone, but you can't hear the quality of their voice or, the quality of the instruments. So it's, in some ways, the music's got degraded sound-wise, quality-wise, industry-wise, the way people go about, putting the music together. I can go on like this for days, John. You see, one big difference was when we used to go in, if you thought you had a talent, or your uncle and auntie thought you were talented, what would you do? You'd go to a recording studio, a commercial recording studio. It says recording studio over the door. You go in there, there'd be an engineer, hopefully, who's been doing this a little while, knows what he's doing. If you were lucky, you might also get to use a record producer who also might know what he's doing. This happened to 4 guys from Liverpool, didn't it? They'd never been in a studio. Well, I don't think they'd been in a studio. Maybe they had in Liverpool, but, they got the chance to come down to London, this was luck. I mean, you talk about luck and you talk about, a path laid out. So they got the opportunity to come down to London to work in the best studio on the planet, with the best possible producer, and what I also say is that great music was made by teams of people, and unfortunately, this is the other difference between now and then, is a lot of music is only being made by the one person, and I don't think that magic music that's going to last for 100 years, it's not easy for one person to create that. And I also say this crazy thing is that we used to call those bands.
We'll have more from Stuart Epps coming up the next few days. Remember, he produced so many people, engineered a lot of people. He was the engineer on the Coda album with Jimmy Page, worked with The Firm, Twisted Sister, Elton John, Paul Rogers, Jimmy Page, and a host of others. If you want to get produced by him, he is available. Go to his website, stuartepps.co.uk. Remember, subscribe to our channel. We always love it when you join our team, like our videos, spread the word, spread the videos on social media, and comment on them as well. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Music.